Next order of business is the review and approval of the minutes of January 14th. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the Tuesday, January 14th minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? And before we vote, Bill, I'll have you sit in for Eric. You want to? Okay, thanks. Okay, no discussion, no changes, edits. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'll abstain because I wasn't here. I know I don't have to.
I know.
All right, next agenda item, regular business pursuant to RSA 674:4-ID1, Appendix A, on our subdivision municipal code of town of Newmarket. Have a request for an application on a boundary line adjustment for Mitchell Realty Trust of 31 Bald Hill Road, tax map R7, lot 21, Tracey L. Bentley Revocable Trust, and Elliot L. Alexander Revocable Trust of 25 Bald Hill Road, tax map R7, lot 20, and Alan S. Mitchell Revocable Trust of 51 Bald Hill Road, tax map R7, lot 27-1. Application seeks to adjust the boundary lines of the following properties by having tax map R7, lot 21, convey 6.19 acres of land and 281.5 feet of road frontage to tax map R7, lot 21-1, and have tax map 21-1 convey 3.944 acres of land to tax map R7, lot 21. Furthermore, tax map R7, lot 21 proposes to convey 1.13 acres of land and 55.32 feet of frontage to tax map R7, lot 20. And all these properties are located in the R1 zoning district. The applicant, you have the floor.
Good evening, Paul Daberstein, Stake and Stone Land Surveying, here on behalf of the applicants and owners. With me here tonight is Wayne Hyde from Southwood Planning Trust, who's been working on this project as well. Philip Mitchell, Sue Noseworthy, and Tracey Bentley. Phil and Sue are not party to any of the applications, but they are part of the whole family. Everybody's that owns these properties are part of the Mitchell family. So, as described in the application, the proposal is to take lot 20, which is the property in the northwest corner there on Bald Hill Road, which is currently just under an acre, and we're going to adjust the lines to, what is that, blue line, to make it just over 2 acres, and adding, as I said, about 53 feet of frontage to that lot, and then reconfiguring lot 21-1, which is 51 Bald Hill Road, which is on the southerly side of the property. Right now, the boundaries are that pink line, that kind of long, narrow rectangle, and adjusting the line to square it off. It's going to have that property go from just over 12 acres to about 14 and a quarter, and add just under 300 feet of frontage to the property. There's no proposed development on the parent parcel, which I guess would be lot 21. There's no structures on that property. It's mainly just field, woods, and wetlands. I think it's fairly straightforward. We did request one waiver for the application with lot 20 to allow for the new corner at Bald Hill Road to be a drill hole as opposed to a mound. Just don't think there's any purpose in having a mound there when there's already an existing stone wall. So, be happy to answer any questions.
Have a written waiver request?
Yeah, he does.
Yes.
Okay, right. We'll accept the application.
Yes, the application is complete.
Can I
Yeah.
have a motion?
Motion to accept the application is complete.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the actual application completeness? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. You want to do, or do
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
let me open it to the
Yeah.
public. Anyone like to come and speak to this application? Anyone have any questions?
evening. I'm Ellen Snyder, 26 Johnson Drive, and Chair of the Conservation Commission. Just wanted to speak on behalf of the Commission that we support the project as described and the conservation that we've been working with the Southeast Land Trust and the Mitchell family, so in support of the project.
Great, thank you. I think Bart's going in for waiver request. Could you repeat what the actual waiver request is for?
Yes. Grab mine. I'm afraid I don't have the actual request, but
The section of the,
yes, I do. I have that here. It's section 3.05 for survey monumentation, which requires a granite bound at the right-of-way. So we're proposing, there's a drill hole that was set there in the stone wall.
sorry. Are there any questions or concerns about granting this particular waiver request? None, I'll take a motion. Or any public comments on the waiver request? Close public comments on this application. Can I get a motion to approve the waiver request?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of granting a waiver to section 305, survey monumentation?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. Any further discussion on the application? Art?
It's just one thing that needs to be added. There's one abutter not on the butter's information on the plan. It's one that's like in the top. Anyways, something that's easily changed. So just adding that information there. And then just some minor things, just some symbology, adding stream symbology, just so it's clear. So just kind of minor plan details. Other than that, this application conforms.
Is there a motion to approve the application as presented, subject to the two conditions that the town planner has requested?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. That is the first part. Next, we will hear an application for subdivision for a boundary line adjustment, again requested by Mitchell Realty Trust of 58 Bald Hill Road, tax map R7, lot 27. The Mitchell Family Revocable Trust of 1998, 44 Bald Hill Road, tax map R7, lot 27-2. And Alan S. Mitchell Revocable Trust of 52 Bald Hill Road, tax map R7, lot 27-3. The proposed application seeks to adjust the lot line between the three properties by having tax map R7, lot 27, being 2.92 acres and 616.7 feet of road frontage to tax map R7, lot 27-2, and 2.49 acres and 252.7 feet of road frontage to tax map R7, lot 27-3. And all these properties are in the R1 zone.
Okay. Again, Paul Daverstein, Stake and Stones Land Surveying. So, very similar situation with on the other side of the road. So the large parcel, which is lot 27, actually has land also in Epping, about 1.14 acres are in Epping. That's not involved in this. Do I need to bring the microphone?
Yeah, I can.
You can take, yeah, you can take the microphone.
I think it says here.
Just use your finger.
Yeah.
Move up and down.
So there's just this small parcel over here that's in Epping, and that's not involved at all. So there's also frontage on Jacobs Well Road, but what we're adjusting is, this is lot 27-2 is currently, this piece right here, the garage is actually over the property line at the moment. And what we're proposing, it's a little hard because it's on the two sheets, but basically this entire field area and then all the way to the existing boundary line up to the family cemetery will be conveyed to that property. And then similarly, you may be familiar with this lot. This is the woodworking school here. Currently the lot is like this, and we're just going to bring it back to the tree line and then over to encompass this entire field area. And that's pretty much it. There is, I'll just point out, just in case there's any questions, there is a strip here between the boundary between what's now the Southeast Land Trust property and the Mitchell Family Trust property. It's about 11 and a half feet wide there. And that's from the previous subdivision back in, I think it was 88. So
Kind of see it there.
lot 27,
Yeah.
the
looks like
Newmarket
a one.
parcel will be going from 73.3 acres to 67.87 acres. It's going to be reducing the road frontage on Bald Hill from 1,070 feet, more or less, to just over 200. And obviously the Jacobs Well frontage will remain unchanged. There's about 970 feet of frontage in Newmarket on Jacobs Well. So lot 27-2, which is that piece more to the north, it's going from just over 2 acres to just under 5, and they're increasing their road frontage by about a little over 600 feet. And 27-3, the woodshop lot, is going to be going from just over 2 to right around 4.6 acres and increasing its frontage by about 250 feet. There are no waiver requests with this particular application. Happy to answer any questions or concerns.
Any questions from the board to the applicant? I have a motion to,
Gotta open the public hearing.
after accept the application.
Oh, yeah. I thought you already did.
I have a motion to accept the application as complete, unless there's any questions.
No.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion on the application completeness? Not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Application's accepted, and I'll open the public hearing.
Hi, Ellen Snyder, 26 Johnson Drive, Newmarket Conservation Commission. Just wanted to speak. Also, on behalf of the commission, that we're in favor of this application as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan, is there, now this piece of property that's here, this is under conservation easement, and this blue part here, or not?
Below it.
Right here? This, or not?
That's part of this project.
Yeah, so you're referring to this kind of like triangular shaped piece poking up?
It's sort of almost like a.
Yes.
Looks like an F.
Yeah, my understanding of that, so, I'm sorry, you're talking about, I just want to make sure I'm speaking about the right
This part
piece
right
here.
All this.
Yeah,
Everything in
this,
blue.
everything,
You've got
yeah.
their green lots.
Yep,
And then there's the blue.
yeah, so that'll all remain with the large lot.
So it would be under conservation. That's under conservation easement?
It's not currently,
Oh, it's not.
no. This is, I thought that's what you were asking about. The town, I believe the town holds a conservation easement and still owns it.
Just for clarification, this application doesn't propose any new lot lines there, does it?
Nope.
Yeah, so this has nothing to do with this application.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if, well, because
The pink is the
The pink is
proposed
the-
lot line?
No, the pink, no, the pink is the
pink is to be
dissolved.
abandoned.
Right.
Yep. The green is the new.
New lot line.
And the blue is existing and unchanged essentially. So these already exist.
okay.
So this lot already exists like this.
Yep.
And they're just adding on this bit over
Right,
here.
I got that, and I got the lower one.
Yep.
I just didn't know what that, where that leaves that piece of land.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned there's like a, it's hard to tell because of the scale, but there's like an 11.5 foot gap between this lot and the property line
Right.
between the large lot and this lot.
But under this application, there's no changes to that section of land.
Okay. Yeah, those lines, so just to be clear, these lines here
Yeah.
were the result of a subdivision, like I said, I think it was 88.
This is
I don't
the
remember
line.
the exact year, but it was sometime in the mid to late 80s.
It is.
Yeah.
I'll zoom in.
Okay.
You can see it here.
You can see, okay.
So the idea would people would walk through there?
Or it's already,
Can we,
it's been there since they.
Can we just limit
Just
the,
like this.
Okay.
guys, can we limit the conversation to the application for the boundary line
Okay.
adjustment? Thank you. Okay, any questions on the boundary line adjustment? Any issues from the plan review?
No.
Is it the proper, the only thing, I like your use of the, actually, I'll just say this really quick, the
Oh,
match point instead of the match line. It's actually kind of neat. I haven't seen that before.
It's like impossible to get a line.
Plus it's like distracting sometimes, a line with the town line there. But the only question I have is if you need the certification that says there are no new ways.
Yes, I meant to address that. So, just to be clear, I did reach out to Epping and never responded. I never got a response from the planning department, Epping, about it. We needed to talk to them. So the intent is, we'll obviously have the Newmarket approval, and then we'll have another certification only applicable to the Epping parcel, saying no new way, that it's, the Epping piece is staying the same.
Yeah, and just for recording purpose, I think you have to state that there are no new, it's a subdivision,
Yeah,
but there are no
yeah,
new ways.
yes.
It's the other cert.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, so there will be like a separate, like
The
two
other-
certifications, one
yeah.
for that, I know you know.
I just making sure.
No charge for that, right?
Well, it's helpful to everyone, so it doesn't, slow up when we get the proper copy here at town hall.
You're good, Bart?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Any further discussion? Can I have a motion to approve the boundary line adjustments as proposed? Oh, sorry, thank you, Danny. I'll now open the public comment on this application. Anyone, well, I did open
Yeah,
it.
you did, Alan
No
did.
one spoke.
Yeah.
Oh, close it.
Close it.
Close the public comments, thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Close the public hearing.
I did close it.
Okay.
Just,
That was
the
cut.
public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Abby. Any further discussion on the motion to approve the application? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimously. You're all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for what you're doing. Next item on the agenda. Review and discussion on the proposed zoning amendment.
Yes.
Town planner has
Sure.
put together a nice packet
Okie
of
dokie.
materials.
Let them file off first.
Sure.
Okay.
You know, Bart, do you want to share this?
Yeah, I will in a second.
Well, how do people want to approach this? Do we want to go right to Bart's recommendation on the zoning ordinance modifications? We can go through that. So Bart, why don't you step us through that?
All right, so for brevity's sake, so
Yes, sorry, Bill.
Sorry, this isn't working out so well, but do you guys see the Zoom thing? Your screen is
detail.
Yeah, so let's do that way, okay,
Yep.
as we piece through each page of this.
Yep.
I think that would be more productive. So in the last meeting, there was discussion, Bart had asked us to think about thresholds. And the 16 unit is the largest building design that you'll see in your package, which is called the courtyard, walkout courtyard apartments. So we were all tasked with kind of thinking about that and then coming back at this meeting with our thoughts as to where that threshold would be. You'll see it, later as to having to address specifics, other issues stepping to a special use permit. And the 16 units is, are we saying lots could have more than that if they go through a permit, or should it be a different number that will bring them before, it would require them to do a special use permit as well as site plan? So kind of if we think about the threshold. Anyone have comments about that?
Let's say what it is currently. Currently, it's 3.
Right, multifamily,
Yeah.
Is anything over 3.
3 or more, yeah.
3 or more would, is considered multifamily.
3 or
So
more.
what happens?
3 or more units. The question is if you think about the special use permit, then you've got fiscal impacts, traffic impacts. There's 2 sets of processes that the applicant has to go through in order to do site plan approval for 3 or more units. If it requires a special use permit, like in the M2A zone, for instance. Or in this case, also in the mill district. That's all done through special use
And
permit.
that's a 20 unit. 20 per acre, yeah.
So the question is, if we're thinking about any development along Exeter Road, Main Street, North Main Street, does it come up 152? Is that what we're proposing, Jerry?
To Jerry.
To make that circle around? Are we thinking that if the proposed site plan or development is 16 units or less, that the applicant's not required to also get a special use permit, or to first get a special use permit? So it's really about the number.
Why 16?
That's the biggest
That's
unit.
the biggest unit of the walk-up courtyard concept.
It's the idea.
16 would trigger it? Or?
Yes.
Well, 17 would trigger it.
Okay, so 16 would be.
More than 16, yeah. It could be 16. I guess that's the discussion. What do we want that to be?
Yeah.
Right, well,
What
I
do you
asked-
want
Oh,
to
yeah.
So a small redevelopment of 6 or 8 units would just go through simple site plan, not a special use?
Correct. Yes.
Currently as proposed, a development of 16 or less units only goes through site plan. Like if somebody
Oh, right.
had a lot that would support it, a courtyard walk-up
16,
concept,
yeah.
at 16 units, it will only go through site plan.
In that area of this map, I don't think there's a single place you could build one of these 16-unit places.
Oh, sure there are.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because if you look at the dimensional controls, most of the lots are 65 feet minimum wide.
So the special use permit was just based on these items that were listed under 32-9?
Yeah, and they've been moved to a different section.
Yeah. So,
So if you have 17 units and you need to come for a special use permit, we would only discuss this little bit, right?
Well, Bart actually
Whatever's
moved them
left.
into a different
I
section.
moved in a different section. So
it refers
this
to-
is the authorization
Okay.
for the plan board to be able to regulate via special use permit. This is the authorization section. Then, once we get to the specific zoning district, that's where the special unit, the criteria is located.
So would the zoning board then have
No, planning board is
Planning board.
Under the site plan.
special use permit.
Plan board.
Currently,
Right,
well,
but it should not.
It wouldn't be a special exception, it would be a special use permit. If it was under zoning board, it would be their special exception. It's basically the same
So that's
mechanism.
not whether or not you'll grant it. So if I want to, so if this gives you the authority to grant it, but the other section's going to give you the criteria
Correct.
instead of having the criteria.
This tells you that this is possible under the special use permit. Go see the section where the criteria is located. I mean, all this section does is, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, but I suffice to say that within the zoning, the special use permit is going to require, obviously, whatever we agree to, but the site suitability, everything that's been crossed out, it's just moved to a different section. If someone's coming before, if we want the threshold to be 17 plus units.
Right, this just says for these specific things, you can have a special use permit if you meet what's in section whatever. And you go to section
If you're
whatever.
proposing to build more than 16 units, you have to follow this criteria. Yeah.
So the discussion at the last meeting that Bart asked us to think about was at what threshold should an applicant have to come before the board for something beyond just the site plan review?
Right.
Because under normal site plan review, we're proposing to not ask for fiscal impacts and, what's the other
Market
thing?
analysis.
Market analysis.
So we can, yeah.
So I don't know if anyone gave any thought to that.
I thought we were discussing a smaller number, more than 6 to 8 range.
Yeah,
I
I decided
agree
at
with-
16, yeah. But-
More than 16?
I think,
I mean, the next,
Next biggest building would be
It's 12.
12, yeah.
12 would be a single building.
Yep.
That would be nice, I think. As
With
opposed to a
commercial.
complex.
Well,
What's the height in this section?
50 feet,
50 feet?
yeah. Doesn't have to be, that's what's
right,
proposed.
but this is just proposed.
Yeah.
Everything is just
Right.
proposed.
So there,
Right now, it's 35, I
right,
think,
it's
and
30
then
feet
50
now.
downtown.
It's 30 right
Is that
now.
35?
And two,
M2A?
and two might be 50.
50.
Yeah.
M2A is 35.
Oh, so this would be 35.
No, everything's on the table,
Okay.
okay? Because the other thing we can think about, I don't want to jump to the Exeter, ordinance, but you could also think about, we could have, we're treating this, the proposal is to have this all one zone, the village corridor zone.
Right.
There could be a separation of what is exactly downtown on Main Street versus Exeter Street, Jerry Ave, South Main, which is the 152 section, and North Main. So to your point, the gateways coming into the downtown might have different triggers, if you will, or what's permitted on those. But the way that this is currently, I think the first draft of this, if I can say.
Yeah, that's very accurate.
Is that Bart's putting out here that, okay, well, the courtyard walk-up is 16 units. Do we want all of the form-based type of designs to move forward without any kind of special use permit? Or if someone's doing a unit that's greater than 8 or greater than 12, is there a smaller threshold that we want an applicant to come before us? And obviously, the important part about this is that that someone who wants to do a redevelopment or a new development, if they just want to know what they have to do, like what are the hoops they need to jump through? Do they need to come get a special use permit, or do they just come to site plan? And it may change how they want to do an application. They may want to subdivide the property, so they don't have to do a special use permit.
We should talk about that, though.
No, we can.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, the developers will be probably pretty creative, depending what we come up with our, proposed zone.
I mean, I think the criteria, like looking at, like especially like following uses may be permitted by special use permit are important when you think about the number of units that are allowed, right? So you could have 12 units, and so, is that what this page is, right? This is telling me like,
Correct.
special use permit will trigger you to have to, it shall require a parking plan. So if you have 12 units, you don't have to prove parking?
No, because there's no parking minimums as proposed.
As proposed.
So in this case, so the idea is these are get larger developments, they're getting bigger, there's more impact, should be more regulation. We also want to allow for some developers to be a little more flexible as well, so they need to demonstrate to us that whatever parking plan that they have is going to accommodate the development without impacting roads, local roads.
But not if you have 12 units.
Correct.
Well, as proposed, not if you have 16.
No, it's just 16, yeah.
Okay.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
You were just talking about the building sizes that were permitted, and it was a jump from 12 to 16, which is why I used 12 as the...
Well, so I guess
So
my...
16 would also require it, but
Well, I think more I think the question is, at what point would you
right.
want a developer to also have to go through the special use permit? Is it, let's probably
Right,
maybe
right. That's-
easier to discuss.
That's
Right now, it's at over 3. I think we could all agree that 4 shouldn't require a special use permit.
this actually says
16?
16 triggers.
That's the proposed, yeah, that's what we're
Yeah,
talking
well,
about.
somebody said 17, but so 16.
Oh,
16.
greater.
Or greater.
No, it's-
Are you on page 2 of 28?
More than 16.
More than 16?
More than
I'm
16.
looking at page 4.
No, we're not even, we're on page 2. More than 16 units.
All right, so, sorry, let me pause right here.
Yeah.
There is inconsistency.
Yeah, there is.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so
We'll
we'll
deal
say, we'll deal with that, but
We'll deal
we'll say for argument's sake right now, it's 16, or
Okay.
it's more than
17.
16.
Let's do it this way.
17.
Are people comfortable that a developer doesn't have to come before us if they are doing 4 units?
Yeah.
Before a
Yeah.
first special use
No.
permit, 6 units. Would there be
Yeah.
any reason to a special use permit?
No.
Okay, 8 units, I'm going right through the buildings, okay?
I think when we get to 8, I have a problem.
On 9 is what you're saying, you have a
Yeah.
problem? Okay. So is 8 the threshold for a special use permit?
This is in the entirety of the orange?
Yes.
Yes.
You could also break it up.
I'd be willing to go as high as 10.
So we stop at 9.
Well, you have to go to 12.
Yeah.
It's 8 or 12, yeah.
Oh, really?
Right down.
We can't go
Yeah.
to 10?
Based on
We don't have any buildings that are
zoning.
designed for 10.
Yeah.
No, no.
We're pretty flexible here, so we can say on North Main Street, we're
Yeah.
comfortable with 8. On South Main Street, maybe 12. We don't have to box ourselves for the
Right.
whole zone. It can be a little more deft.
I like that idea of having the
Breaking it
two
up.
different numbers for the 2 different ends.
Like Exeter Road
too.
might be different.
Exeter Road
Yeah.
having a higher
Downtown
number.
would be different.
Downtown.
I think downtown will be the only part that might have to be different, right?
Yeah.
The 2 ends, I just think of the extra parking right in the downtown.
Right.
If somebody did happen to
Yeah.
redevelop something right downtown.
There's buildings for sale. Someone takes the eyeglass shop. They want to convert it to 8 units.
There's no parking.
There's no parking, should they have to come before us for a special use permit? Is 8 the trigger for downtown, is that what we're thinking?
No, I was thinking 8 would be, to me, 8 would be out of town.
Out of town, more than 8 out of town. So if they want to come downtown and do 16 units in the building, they just come in through site plan.
But the parking is more restricted downtown. so-
Yeah, I would think
Right.
less units would trigger it
Yeah.
downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you could have more units without triggering it. Or
I'm sorry.
Thoughts on that?
you think the opposite? Because you want denser living downtown, right
You want
downtown.
denser living downtown.
Could it be less parking there?
But
On-
the shop
so
sales-
would you-
Yeah.
Deal
So-
with parking later.
Well, I'm just saying,
That is tough.
if you want dense downtown, so you'd want a higher threshold downtown.
No, well, that's not what I was saying, what I want, but I could see how that would be desirable. Most downtowns are denser.
Sure.
Right, but there's usually places to put cars.
That's a nice conversation. Do people like the idea of separating out this village corridor so that the downtown is very dense, per se, relative to the North Main, South Main section, Jerry Ave and Exeter Road sections? Does it make sense that wherever we go with, when we get to the end of the draft, that the concept is that we want to have the downtown area itself, Main Street, be the more dense? Or not?
But I think what you're doing there is you're incentivizing, like, just thinking redevelopment.
Yeah.
You're really putting a real big emphasis of that point in town and those buildings to be demolished and rebuilt.
Yeah.
If you're putting the concentration there instead of spreading it out. Where we have some, I would say, parcels out there that are, lack of a better word, disturbed and can be redeveloped.
Sorry to keep jumping in here, but isn't the density a little separate from the special use needs? Where downtown there's more impact on traffic and parking, we might want more oversight on that.
But it's
Right,
also,
that's where I was
where
originally.
Jeff was going with it.
That's where I was going
Yeah.
originally, but then if you think about a lot of urban centers, they're more dense, right? No.
But do you want more oversight because of
So,
that?
Yeah.
but it doesn't necessarily mean they have to provide on-site parking. What if they rented a lot?
I don't think it has to be at the building. It
Yeah.
could be,
No.
it could
Could
be
just
the
be
town
anywhere.
making an
Yeah.
investment up
Right.
the road and
Yeah.
building some
Right.
different sort of parking
Right.
situations too.
Because my idea around this too is, okay, yes, obviously reality right now, we're vehicular centric, but we also want to try to promote public transportation. We need to drive demand somehow in order to, try to get it back.
Are we pretty much in agreement that we almost are wanting to look at like almost these VC, we're calling it, right? The
Village corridor.
Village corridor. So there's like a village corridor A and a village corridor B, where Main Street is the core, or wherever we want to set that boundary, right? That makes the most sense. And so that would have one trigger for site plan versus the outside of that main corridor.
I personally have an opinion on that if you want. I would say from the river to the 152 split.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because the Jerry Ave area you
Yeah,
could do a lot with that
you can.
triangle.
Mhm.
So why
Yeah,
restrict that?
I would definitely agree with that.
So from the 108 bridge
Yeah, the 108 bridge
down,
down to the 152 split.
To the
When-
gas station.
So basically it's Main Street.
what about Main Street and Exeter Road?
Splits in Main Street, Exeter Road.
Yeah, Exeter Road starts at that point.
Yep.
Or
That's just my.
does South Main start at that point?
Yeah,
It
it's on
does.
Main
It's
Street.
at the
Yeah.
blinking light.
152.
Yeah, so Main Street is from the bridge to the blinking light. True?
I think so.
Okay.
I would agree.
So that's kind of, what do you think in there, an A or a D, Bart? Or a one
I say
or a
just,
two?
we just make it a little more descriptive. We can say Village Corridor, Main Street, Exeter Road.
Well,
Yeah.
we can define it,
Yeah.
but as far as through,
This
keep it
process,
simple,
A.
VC1, VC2, or
Yeah.
A or B?
also VC1
VC1 or
VC2.
VC2? Okay, so.
or
just for-
VC middle.
No.
VC.
Okay,
All right.
so for purposes of discussion, when we talk about VC1, or we're talking about Main Street.
Yeah.
Right, that will be the VC1. Outside of Main Street being North Main, South Main, and Exeter Road. In Jerry Ave would be the VC2. So downtown, what I'm hearing is more oversight? And Jeff, you proposed like 8 units? Or Abby did? How do people feel about that? Bill, why don't you weigh in? I don't want to
I would agree with that. I would go with a lower 8.
That's fine with me, I can live with that.
And then can we live with the 16 outside of that? Outside that, going into the outside areas? Or do you want to pull that down to special use? It's like 12.
Well, I guess, I like the idea of the Exeter Road section being at that 16 number, but the North Main Street maybe being closer to the 12 number,
That's too complicated. Let's just make it all 12.
Well,
But I guess I'd like to hear why.
because, well, if you look at it currently, we already do have large apartment complexes in that section. They're not right on Exeter Road, but they're very close to Exeter Road. So we've, in that neighborhood, that's sort of an established thing. That kind of larger complex, more density. Whereas North Main Street, we have, one condo complex that's off the road, and we have one apartment complex right next to the
We've 2.
laundromat.
And then we have one up in
Pulaski.
Lido. So there's really 2 off of, in North Main, and those are only 12 units
Yep.
in each of those complexes. That's the
So
number of residential units.
when I still like the idea of that area, having the ability to be denser. I just,
More oversight.
yeah, I know it's more. Is that what are you saying, Lord?
You said more oversight.
Or oversight.
Yeah.
In a way, I kind of agree, just because if you look at my criteria, we can talk about later.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have maybe a little oversight there, because it's more of a blank canvas.
Yeah. So 12.
12, yeah.
12.
12 on VC 2 and 16 on VC 3.
What's
Or-
VC3?
Are we saying that
Let's
full
say,
road?
how about VCN, which is north?
Yeah, like that.
And VC south. Okay, so VC south is 16, and VC north is 12. And there's still a lot of flexibility within the designs that will fall into like the 12 unit, or an 8 unit, depending on the lot. Okay. Everybody good with that? Bill?
Bill?
Yes, I am good with that.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Sounds good.
So we have 3 thresholds depending on what the location is.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right, moving along.
So the next
Talk
big
about, yeah,
section.
residential zones.
So the M1 district is dissolved, and big, everyone knows those are the mill buildings. So that's going to have its own section. And that's basically going to stay the same, but it's in a different section of the zoning ordinance.
It only applied to the mill.
Historic mill buildings. It only applies to the mill buildings. That's it. Nothing else. So basically, it's almost just built out. Anyways, so now the VC Village Corridor takes over the M1's reference number, and here, this is going to be, as we'll discuss later, regulated by building types, not lot or density control, traditional density controls like acreage, units per acre, but as proposed. And really, what this does is kind of takes some of Ivy's recommendations and it translates it into how our code is formatted, and where it diverges from Ivy's recommendations is kind of joining the two together of what the M2A special use permit criteria was, along with these new zoning recommendations. So if you go to section, here we go, is it E2? This is where the special use permit criteria comes into play. So basically, if this is triggered, it would demand a fiscal market analysis study, kind of similar to what we have today. Then it demands the applicant to put together a parking plan by a qualified professional, that demonstrates that there won't be any adverse impact onto local roads and local and state roads. So really, where we are a little more liberal, the base zone, here we really want to make sure that parking is taken care of in a satisfactory way, or we just want more oversight over it because there's more intensity. And so here's where it gets a little different. Out of depending on the units, it has to be no more than 20% of a specific building type in that development. So the idea is not to have monoliths, not homogeneous buildings. We want more diversity of building types instead of like having, they say, a wall of townhouses or whatnot, or just big, complexes or bigger buildings. We want to kind of have more diversity of building types. And then what I find most important out of this, at least for me, is building the development around either open space, commercial space, or recreation space. So you're really taking that in space and you're focusing on how people are going to interact where they live in this common space. And so the idea is that you're building developments that don't isolate people, they connect people. And this is an area of town where we want more connections. So, and this is kind of a way of trying to emphasize that we want a more public space in these private developments, or at least we want opportunities for just social commerce, recreation, just so we're not kind of totally not thinking about just we're not thinking we want to make sure that we're thinking about if people are going to live here, they're actually going to have a good life, not just live here for living here's sake, like they have to. So.
Okay, so if, depending where it is, if it's greater than, 8, 12, or 16, these would be the criteria Bart's proposing for special use permit. If someone's coming in with an application in the VC1 or the north or south, depending what will trigger it, then they would have to meet these, they'd have to come to the board and basically meet the conditions set forth, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Any discussion on the proposed conditions or criteria? I think he's done Bart's done a great job of taking what was under the special use permit for multifamily, where, for instance, just at site suitability, that's just like who's gonna determine that? I think this is just very much more defined and easier for a board to deliberate on, or an applicant to prepare an application that can meet these, or design a development that can meet these.
Sorry, I think I was about to say something.
Bill?
Yeah, I just have one comment on that. Item 4, I'm struggling with the word visitors of the development versus public access.
Well,
Do you have to be a visitor to it, or do you gain public access?
well, let's say I can put "or" there. So the idea is you're gonna have people are visiting. So I guess the idea is that, especially if there's a commercial element to it, then obviously the public's gonna be welcomed. So the idea is just to make sure that the development is designed in a way that directs people to interact with each other. I guess is what.
I guess I'm struggling to my point. Visitors could be interpreted that you have to know somebody there, that you're actually visiting somebody, like the dorms at UNH or something, to gain access.
But Bill, just to, not to interrupt, just for clarification, you're not proposing that any redevelopment requires public space, are you?
It doesn't say that.
I don't know. I guess that's what I was raising. This common space just for the residents and visitors of those residents? Was that what we're saying?
Well, it's a building on Bennett Way that has like a playground or a pool, some space for the residents and the people visiting them. It's a common area. I think that's more what Art is proposing here. I think the idea of, it's just my opinion, but the idea of requiring a developer to have space as part of the development be public spaces, I'm not sure I
I
support
agree.
that.
Yeah, that's a taking, so you
Could
can't
be
do that.
interpreted
Yeah.
different ways, I
Yeah.
think, as a visitor versus public space.
Well, okay, so maybe Bart, you can work on some language there. I think we understand where you're going with it.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions. I see that the original letter A, uppercase letter A from 32-9 was left
I
out.
was gonna go back to that.
It's not.
Let's, yeah,
So, shall have appropriate utilities and no negative impact on environmental resources. I didn't see it in there. I'm missing this.
I think they have to meet that through site plan anyway, so why
Right.
would you have to come to special use permit for that? Stormwater, utilities, it's all part of site plan. I think the idea of the special use permit is you're doing something, you wanna do something that's over and above what's permitted. Prove to the planning board that you can meet all these extra conditions. So
it's
that the
just-
planning board has more oversight.
It shouldn't have been included be priors.
It shouldn't have been.
I think it's redundant.
Yeah, redundant.
And then my second one is we didn't, so this, I know we went past this page.
We're going back.
Because there's some
Yeah.
questions about that, which may impact some of these discussions,
Okay, so let's jump back over there then.
which is what.
Okay.
So my, oh, sorry, you're gonna go straight through it, or?
Yeah, I think it'd be probably easier. Okay, so under the section 32-45, the purpose, I think, Bart, maybe you could expand on that, because then we're doing like the Main Street, not Route 108 or 152, basically Main Street, you know, then the north and the south, defining those areas.
Yeah.
Right? I think, Jeff, you probably want to jump into dimension standards, if people look at the proposed,
B2A.
yeah. So under section B, is this the dimensional table requirements, that is on page 13.
Yep.
And then the question there is, are we gonna have 3 columns, VC North, VC South? Do you wanna discuss it from that perspective, downtown, north and south?
Well, do we want different, yeah, well, I guess we have to for height. Well,
Or you can
we could do,
footnote
we could
it.
footnote it, and then we specify it within the section itself.
So let's just go through it in general. Minimum road frontage, we're currently in the M1 zone is 75. I'm gonna call these out just so you can see them. The M2A is 50, and the B is 150, which is North Main Street, okay? The
This,
proposal is now to bring it down to 20, a 20-foot is the minimum road frontage. So minimum lot size would be 20 feet wide.
So from the last meeting, just before you speak, Jeff, but the recommendations is 0. We had a discussion on, probably shouldn't be 0. So what I did was look at the width of the smallest building, which is a townhouse, and I brought it to 20.
And then what I did is
it's
I.
0 on the sides.
With 0, if it's a party wall, I think that's what you're discussing.
Right, so
It's
the
0.
idea, well, just the frontage of a building,
Yeah.
the smallest building that we have proposed is 20 feet.
To the
in
eaves,
width. In width.
to the
Yeah.
You're
eaves.
talking about
But
the
to the
townhouse
overhangs.
We're talking about road frontage,
Road.
right?
Yeah, to the overhangs on the side of the building. Because if the building's 20 feet wide, are you leaving space?
Well, let's really talk about also the width of a lot.
Yeah.
Subdivision.
Right, which I thought Bar was just saying he made it as small as the smallest building allowed.
Yeah, I
with
think there's
zeros.
some unintended consequences on that, in that the smallest lots right now in the district, there's like 65, there's 60 feet is one of the smallest frontages. North Main, Jerry Ave, let's say the V North and the V South. It's the downtown that there are some skinny buildings that are 20 feet, not a lot,
Yep.
a couple. So I guess, do we want different, does frontage matter in the downtown actual area? More so than, or does it matter more in the north and south areas, meaning outside of downtown? Because that's really the areas where people, if it's only 20 feet, I've got a, say a lot that's 120 feet, I'll subdivide it and then put 8 on each.
We need a commercial element though, in those streets.
Well, it's 20 foot, they're 20 feet in width.
Yep.
So you'd have 6.
Yeah,
But you
right,
know,
20
like
feet.
six-
That's what I'm saying, if
no,
it's
no, 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 no.
60.
But you only go
Yeah.
5 deep or
Six-
5
six
wide
building.
for a townhouse, if you did townhouse, the way it's proposed. Can't do more. Then you have to have a break.
Right, so I just think a 20-foot wide lot, given the the current frontages of all the lots in these districts, I didn't do Jerry Ave, I didn't do, South Main. But I think it leaves, at a 20-foot wide lot frontage, I think it leaves too much open for a lot of subdivision of existing parcels into very narrow parcels.
What's the smallest building you can put on there?
Townhouse.
Smallest building,
The width of it?
20 feet.
So,
Or
as a,
it could be 18.
so as a developer, would it make more sense to take a 120-foot lot and put townhouse or something on it with parking or something, or to subdivide it and do 6 individual houses that touch each other? Because it's essentially a townhouse, but you own it. It's like a condo. I don't even know what that is. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you've got, I don't know what would be more desirable for a developer to do. Would it be to literally subdivide it and make 6 separate lots with houses that touch, or to do like one building with a number of units in it? Because I think that's what you're saying is like.
The
could
unintended
happen.
consequence of it is I think you're gonna have a lot more units in a lot
More individual
Dense.
ownership.
and more units.
Yeah,
And,
but
and the density of those units. 'Cause
I think you might end up with the same number of units, but it just, there'll either be individual lots with owners, or there'll be like 6 units on one lot,
you're assuming that it's a townhouse coming up and down.
No, but I mean, if they don't subdivide it, and you have 120-foot wide frontage, and you build a building, or would a developer rather cut that into 6 lots and put 6 very skinny houses that touch each other on it? You know what I mean? Because it's like, because I thought that seems
Or
like
6 4-unit buildings,
6 4-unit buildings.
okay, and in this,
Very
if it's
tall,
120
skinny.
feet.
Yes.
then
Yeah, but he goes to
that's
special
5,
use.
that's it.
That person goes through the special use permit criteria because it's a cumulative of, you subdivide.
But they could be individual.
You're going through that process. So then they have to show parking, they have to go through,
That's what you're gonna propose,
yes.
yeah.
Right. I think I did like a slight update.
Yeah, I just think that you got.
So there's
you
no
open-
circumnavigating.
I understand, Bar, I think a good attorney can navigate around that, because then you could just put, you could be selling off the parcels. You've got individual owners coming for, different LLCs coming. And then all of a sudden it's the 5th parcel, and then they can't use it.
I need to find some up.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can do that.
Yes.
Bill?
Can we set it to whatever we think is appropriate, 50 or 60 feet? But make an exception for existing buildings that.
Well, you would, right, right now, there's just, there's only a couple buildings, there's only a couple lots in this district that are less than 60 feet wide.
In the north section, right, we're talking about?
North, south,
Yep.
Jerry.
Oh, you're talking about all of them.
that are
So in
thinner.
those cases, we can make that exception as long as they meet all the other requirements.
Well, they'll
You
allow,
can fit it in the existing lot that's below the criteria, as long as they can meet all the other requirements.
what if we had different requirements on different roads? For instance, on the main, 108, North Main Street, Exeter Road, 152 South Main, you have a higher threshold. Say,
Yeah.
But if you create a new road, or or those roads off that, maybe it's lower.
Are you gonna, if you make it too wide, I mean, I thought the goal was to kind of create this kind of like dense, homogeneous structure kind of thing that somewhat with different facades. And if you make the lots too wide, that don't, or do you end up not creating that? You create a bunch of buildings with alleys between them, and gaps and stuff? Because like you're not filling the whole space with a building, and getting close enough. Like I don't have a problem with buildings touching each other, right? I mean, lots, that happens in cities all the time, buildings end up touching each other.
Or do you move the developer to create more building styles that we're looking to have there?
Do they fit? Like, is 50 the right, then, so if we do that,
Well,
what's the right,
building with
what's the right
25
width?
feet, and
Yeah.
then maybe we want, and the parking has to be in the rear, right, or the side. So you're a 20-foot wide lot, you know, basically take out the townhouse,
Yeah, you'd have to have on-street parking,
right? And- and
which they can have if they only have 4 units, right?
Okay.
They don't have to even go prove parking.
I have an idea.
You're not gonna have on-street parking on the north corridor.
But do they have to prove parking?
We haven't gotten to parking yet, but you're not gonna have any parking along 108 on the
No, I
north.
agree,
can't.
but I thought it was only special use permit required parking
Correct.
evaluation.
Evaluation, I'm just saying physically, are you gonna build a building with no parking? Maybe,
Maybe they built it with less than the parking for the units over there, right?
there's still a lot of parking over there.
No, I know, but there's
Yeah.
less than the number of units, right?
Yeah, it's not a 1-for-1, right, on Railroad? Less than.
It's less, yeah.
Yeah, so it's less.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just saying that developers will produce a structure with less parking than required. They might say, well, we can fit 1 car in here, we'll put in 3 units and everyone will take a bus.
And that's the decision of the developer. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right, I'm looking at it more from the perspective of if the road frontage is 20 feet. And to your point, I have a 120-foot lot, which are a lot of them. Am I gonna subdivide that into 6 lots?
Right. You wouldn't be able to put any on-site parking if you did that, because the building's 20 feet wide minimum, right?
If that's what I build.
You could
Maybe
build in tiny
realistically
houses.
not
Yeah,
gonna do that.
you're not having to, it's not saying you have to build that.
I thought you had to build one of those buildings.
That's
that are on the
nice.
list.
Do you have to build a 30-foot when you do live work? Does it have to be 30 foot? It's 30-foot max.
Yeah, it
It's
has
six-
a, yeah.
It's max, everything's max.
I thought it had to be one of those styles.
It would be the style, but this is the building with maximum building.
No, I understand, but if you have a 20-foot wide lot, what's the narrowest building style that we,
Probably a townhouse.
Townhouse.
Or duplex.
which is how?
Well, no, you can build any one of these, you just make it smaller.
Yeah, but you can't build a building 10 feet wide.
I could have a small and simple shop, 18 feet wide.
That'll only leave you 2 feet, so you still wouldn't have on-site parking.
Right, that's my
But-
point of why 20 feet. That's what I'm trying to argue, or make a point of. Is it 20 feet is just, why would we have a minimum, why would we have a minimum road frontage of only 20 feet?
I think,
That's the proposal.
I thought Bart said the size of the building was 20 feet, and you were trying to go with that so that the buildings would touch each other, could touch each other if they were built in.
Yeah, so building with the maximum, the smallest maximum is the townhouse, which is 25 feet. The width
As a maximum.
as a maximum.
Wait, you could have an 18-foot townhouse.
So if you go to, let's say 25 feet. My question is, why do we care?
I think we care because I think we need to look at unintended consequences of what could happen through subdivisions.
Right. So we care about our streets, like on 108. We want to make sure, those are the streets that we really care about because it has a commercial element. That off of 108, 152, where there is not that much commercial, probably more residential, could they be smaller?
We're saying on South Main?
Yes, South Main, maybe Jerry Ave here. South Main,
This is Jerry.
Jerry Ave, there, because those units are very small. They have the width.
there's these 5 little
Barber
guys that
shop,
are all together here.
Consignment store, like
Yeah,
that area.
that's one building.
And also another way to think about this, we're bringing buildings into conformity, which are non-conforming right now.
So if you redevelop, you would
Yeah.
have to
So
control.
in downtown,
But they're not non-conforming, the majority are not non-conforming because of road frontage. The majority are non, well, they are,
Yes.
but they're 60 feet, they're not 75. Yeah, they're 60 feet.
let's say in the M2A, is that in,
I mean, M2, again, M2A, most of them are conforming, because that's only 50 feet.
M2 is 50?
Do we stay at 50?
I think if you have a 0 setback on the sides, how can you require people to park in the back? Or the side of the building?
A hover car.
Because someone could legitimately build the building all the way to the side setbacks and provide 0 parking on the parcel, because you can't park in front of it.
Unless
The
we have
building.
parking requirements in the zoning.
So then you could push the building to one side to the 0 setback and put a road or
Driveway.
driveway on the other side. Like legit, well, like what's the, like, if someone's gonna build a multi-story building, how narrow will they build it? I mean, there's no minimum width listed. There's only maximum widths listed that I saw.
Right. Well, I would say it just
Think of it-
depends on the lot. Right, is it deep?
Sure, 50 feet deep. That's kind of deep for a
Okay.
town lot.
So then what are you gonna put a micro unit in, one on top of each other?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking what's
Yeah.
practical for real estate and saleable and.
It's just not predictable too, though, because
Right,
lots
good
could
point.
change hands and, you know. I mean, I think we just can't know that kind of the level of the future of
So,
things.
so what if they make it say make it 20 feet, then they've got all these 20-foot lots, they put like 20 tiny houses on them, say.
You wanna do that from an economic standpoint.
Well, that's what I'm asking, from an
Yeah,
economic
no.
standpoint, what size
'Cause I
building
could
would you build?
50 if it's a 50-foot height, 35-foot height, depending on, what we decide.
That's what I was asking at first, like what's more economically viable? I mean, somebody might say, I want my own lot with a tiny house and pay more for it than a condo or a rent.
Well,
So what's,
I think
that's
there's
why-
evidence to suggest
Yeah.
currently that
Right.
if we give them the option to go up, that's how they will solve it. Because we have 2 buildings that are going up currently exactly with that.
Exactly.
Right.
They had very constrained lots, and they just went up as high as they could and have the minimum parking that they possibly could get away with. So I would expect, if the current situation remains the same, we would expect more of the same. Because that maximizes their income potential, right?
they're not gonna build it, they can't sell it or rent it.
we'll see. Time will tell.
Well, what's a number that you'd be comfortable with, Al? 50 feet?
Yeah, I'm happy to stay with the 50 feet.
Okay.
So this is my suggestion. There's a waiver section. Where road setback, side, rear setback, structure height. Well, if we put frontage as well in there, and then they can demonstrate to the board that it's necessary to get a special use permit.
So it's not whether or not to build on a lot, it's really, you're gonna have a waiver for basically subdivision? I would think that would have to go through.
Not if it's in the zoning, and you say you can.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
my personal opinion about that is, because you're asking, we're letting people waive what would be subdivision requirements, not use
Mhm.
requirements.
Yeah, well, I'd be happy with
It's built.
50. I mean, we don't want these little tiny houses, they're not gonna make sense anyway.
50 it is.
50 is still a pretty small number.
And again, this is for, it's creation of a lot. It's not saying you need 50 feet to do a redevelopment. Right, because you have a grandfather, if it's, if there, any of the lots is a couple, right? In that, particularly in that, South Main Street section, it would definitely be non-conforming. Okay,
All right.
50 feet, all
50.
three zones?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right. Let's talk lot size.
Lot
I mean,
size.
there's, I wonder, do you know the width of the lots across, say, like the block where the Durgan building is? Like through that section of downtown? Is it even 50 feet for the existing lots?
Yes, the mural building.
Oh,
Like that, through there, like all those buildings?
no, when you think about it, it's one building.
No, I know, but
Right.
right.
So correct, the lots wouldn't be, the lots are the width. I mean, if you take the flower shop building, that
Yeah,
is
the flower shop,
yeah, the
probably
Federalist building there.
16 feet?
I don't
Yes,
think that,
it's
no,
really
those
big, yeah.
buildings are in private ownership, the different pieces of them,
Mhm,
but they're not 50 feet wide.
correct.
Right, so,
My comment was North Main Street, South Main Street, Gary Ave.
right, but what I'm thinking is that if you want to create an extension of downtown, a similar form,
Someone can create a building and have multiple shops, right? You could do the multi-tenant Main Street, create
yeah,
another
but
Durban block.
I know you're putting the onus on a single owner, though, instead of letting it, the way it's down, it's fine. I'm just saying, like, the downtown was created a different way, right? It was created by different owners with very small, narrow lots, putting buildings up against each other. Narrower than 50 feet.
It was
I
a
guess is
different
what it's-
situation, though. I mean, there were so many different factors that created that than where we are today.
Right, but they took a narrow space and went up.
Right.
And put in.
Because they didn't have any consideration for things like parking or any things that we're looking at because they didn't have cars. I mean, when most were built, so,
Where do you hook up your
No,
horse?
I
Yeah.
understand that, but.
or they walked to the train station. I mean, they walked everywhere.
I mean, I understand, but
I
it's
don't know
just,
if you know
if you
what
want to
Pine Street
create.
is, but Pine Street had a garage the entire length of the street that was just for horses.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, I'm just saying, you're not gonna get a similar look.
Right.
It's gonna be different. It's gonna be broken by driveways every 30 feet. You know, 30 feet a driveway, 30 feet a driveway, because everyone's gonna park in back. So you're not gonna create this look like extension of downtown. It's gonna look different.
No, I agree, the
It will
density
definitely look different.
will look different that would be created in this district. But the idea is more, we're still creating greater density, which provides that opportunity for the commercial to be there, to have more activities that are, people can engage in that area. But it won't look exactly the same. I agree, you can't replicate exactly what the downtown has under our current situation.
Scott had a good idea, right? They had a parking garage.
Oh, it was for horses.
Exactly, it was for horses.
Bart, can you go through your
So you
minimum
put a
lot
place for
size?
people to put
One,
their
cars.
1/25th?
I was just keeping with the acres, so basically the idea, that'd be like a townhouse lot. So 1,700 square feet, minimum lot size.
1,700 square
Right.
feet.
Right, so, basically what I was trying to do is take, minimum lot area of a typical townhouse, which is in, what we have in our like T4 neighborhood, be 1,600 square feet. I just took that lot size and transferred it over into here, so, just for discussion. Since that's gonna be our smallest building, and maybe we consider, if we were to do townhouses, each individual, they're sharing walls, but maybe it'd be, smaller property, smaller lots.
Yeah, I'd rather see someone condo it, so you have a, single management,
Yeah.
I think that would, yeah, and one driveway in and.
So is that 1/25 of an acre, 1,600 square feet?
About 17.
Currently, we're at a quarter acre?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, is there any reason to not keep that? I mean, all of these, the idea is to really try to move some of these multi-use buildings forward. It would seem that, and especially if they're on the riverfront side, they would need to have a little bit more acreage anyway because of the shoreline setbacks.
So that's 10,890 square feet. Lot sizes. If you did quarter acre.
20 by 50.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of buildings in that area that are a lot smaller than that.
Yeah.
A lot of
Well,
lots in
acreage?
that area.
Acreage, yeah.
There's only 6 out of 56 on the ones that I did, to a total of 53, sorry. There's only 6 that are under that acreage.
Or 6 lots
53.
under
Under
quarter.
quarter.
Correct. And the smallest one is 5,600 square feet. I would
Keep it
say
in a
keep it as a
quarter.
quarter of an acre, and if somebody, again, if someone thinks that's a hardship for what they want to do,
I'm just thinking
it's
about,
not disincentive to someone.
has a little different context, but like the open space subdivision, you can reduce those lot sizes really small.
It doesn't promote density. Quarter acre is actually a pretty good size.
Well, we're not saying a number of acres per unit.
Just
Yeah.
a
I think
lot
we're moving
size.
away from that,
Right.
it's just saying, if you're gonna subdivide a parcel, what's the minimum
Mhm.
parcel that you can create without, right, 60 feet of road frontage, and how much, is it 12,000 square, or
The road
10,000,
frontage?
10,008,
Yeah.
The road frontage is 50, right?
50, sorry, yeah.
And 10 acres,
So it's gonna be,
that quarter
it could be
acre.
20 feet deep and 50 feet wide.
So it's 50 feet
Yeah.
wide, yeah.
Could be.
An acre is about like 44,000, something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, a
45,
little
60.
over 10,000 is a quarter of an acre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 20 by 50. But it's gotta be 50 wide and 20, it could be 50 wide and only 20 deep. But that would be really weird.
And they're all over that. But as far as creating new lots,
Okay, 20, that's 1,000, isn't it?
yeah,
50 times 20?
1,000.
yeah.
Quarter of an acre.
Quarter acre would be, say, 10/8. 5.
Yeah.
200. It's enormous.
That's 20.
Yeah.
That's 10,000 square
Yeah.
feet. I mean,
And there's just only a couple of large acres.
about 5,000.
An eighth of an acre.
It's 50, yeah, it's 200 feet deep. What are we talking about? It's 50 by 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's big. 50 by 200.
Below, 5,000 square feet.
So I was thinking like a quarter acre, like lots in towns, like are really small.
Yeah.
Like in most
really
cities
small,
are very
yeah.
small. I don't know.
Which maybe that
It's-
works because you guys can discuss.
Yeah, how about an eighth of an acre?
Let's do the square footage, that makes more sense.
Over square feet.
Yeah, for these corridors.
Yeah, I was just trying to keep it at the table, not to.
No, I understand that, but I think
Yeah, I can make the switch.
separate them out, in which
Switch.
we're rezoning the whole town after, and then end up doing the square
Did
footage.
the math wrong, because I was thinking of a downtown area and a lot being small, so in my head, I'm thinking of a very small space.
Yeah.
Not thinking of a
Well, then,
200-foot deep
it's
lot, like the size of half a football field.
Really
essentially.
talking about subdivision. Minimum lot size for creating a lot,
Right.
right?
So do we want them to create more lots?
Yeah, as long as they're 50 feet wide, how big do you want it to be?
I guess if you have to put the parking
Well,
in the back
50
of the
by
building, it
100
needs to be
would
pretty
be
deep.
an eighth of an acre.
You would, yeah, you have to.
All right, how about we get from, let's go square footage, since we're gonna make that switch.
Yeah.
So how many square feet? Think of it that way.
Yeah, I think 5,000 is fine.
Yeah, I would agree. I was thinking 5,000 too.
Jeff?
Sure.
Jane? Patty?
Bill? Bill, we're talking 5,000 square feet for minimum lot size if someone's gonna subdivide.
Yeah, I was a little hesitant there, but I guess it makes sense for most of that area.
And that triggers, stormwater or redevelopment. Yes. Right.
It's gonna be tough to develop that, but
Okay, well, residential density, we talked to, the recommendation is to really not have an actual density maximum. It's gonna be, as form-based zoning, what will the lot support? You know, for the building, for access, parking. That's kind of the premise of that, right?
All right, so I might have
Sure.
to work on this, so, but what I was trying to get, so there would be residential density per acre, but it would be by building type, so the maximum building you could put on a lot is a unit, a building with 16 units.
Mm-hmm. So you can do that through footnotes or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so we're good on that one?
Mhm.
Okay. That's gonna be the residential density, we talked about that, that's gonna change by the 3 different zones. Okay. The proposal on minimum road setback is to have 5 feet. And are we good with that in all 3 zones?
I think the language is different.
And setback is measured from the sidewalk.
From the public
Property
right
line.
away.
Property line.
So
Right away
that's
would
what
be
it
the
like.
Sidewalk,
Some of them will require more if
or
it's
just the
commercial.
edge of the street.
Yeah, where the property line would meet the
Yeah,
street.
Right.
So you just have to change 32, the B2, the B2A needs to be changed
B2A.
on page 3.
Page 3?
32 PA.
Oh, it says 50, that's a maximum of 50.
No, it says buildings must meet the back of the sidewalk.
Or be stepped back a maximum of 50.
The back of the sidewalk could be in the could be within the roadway right of way. So you can't force people to build their building up to the back of the sidewalk if it's in the right of way.
Well, true. You can't build off your property.
Yeah, I'm with
Right. So it says
I guess the question,
buildings must meet the back of the sidewalk
And the sidewalks are 8 feet.
or be stepped back. So you want the building back far enough to have steps to get into it, an overhang.
well, let's move off from here back to the dimensional table.
No, yeah, I was just
Yeah.
making sure that they match,
Yeah.
just to know that
Yeah,
that has to be
move on.
changed.
But that's a
But-
maximum on page 3, not a minimum.
Well, no, it says they must meet the.
A minimum setback
Yeah.
is 5 feet, but there'd be a
Yeah.
maximum of 20.
So,
So you've got to step it back at least 5 feet from the property line.
Right.
Okay, and page 3
But no
says
more than
maximum
20
50.
feet. No, that will change all that.
Okay.
It will match the table of
Okay.
the dimensional table.
it must be back. So, yeah, it must hit the sidewalk or step back. And then the dimensional table is telling you what your setbacks are from the lot line. the road.
What? Yeah, to Jeff's point, must hit the sidewalk, that makes no sense.
No.
Under site
Or,
plan, we
or
would,
setback 50 feet maximum. Did it say or?
It does say
No.
or, but,
Yeah.
but if this,
in the table, the proposal is 5
so you're saying if
feet
the sidewalk
road
goes onto the
setback.
private property, they must
Let's
meet
just say,
it?
for instance, you have sidewalk, open space, hangout, patio, whatever, then the building.
Well, then that's gonna be a maximum of 20 feet.
think the dimensional table drives that sentence, and the
Correct,
sentence just
that's
needs,
my
that's what
point.
Val's
Right.
saying, yeah,
Okay,
like,
so
Okay.
do we want 20 or 50?
I would think in the zone, you're trying to like
Get them.
keep it closer
Yeah.
to the road.
Alright, so I'll change the 20.
And then a 5 foot is the minimum setback from the road, the right of way, the, whatever the property line is. All right. Talking about, I'm sorry, Jeff, did you?
I was just curious about downtown again and how that works, and I know it's a different district, but to Bart's point, like, I understand the idea of having the building up to the sidewalk, it's kind of nice and
Yeah.
downtown-y, right?
So in site plan, it could be that 5 feet is an extension of the sidewalk.
Yeah, like they add
Because we have the
sidewalk up
sidewalks
front.
now.
Yeah. Because it's, I bet some of those buildings downtown, their front step is in the right of way. Could be, or their
Yeah.
awnings, or their
Well, we had to a
overhangs, right?
surveyor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so, but future development, they won't let that happen, right? Like, they'll be like, no, you can't build that there, you have to move it back, so it's hard to get the building to meet the
Or maybe it's
sidewalk.
not, because they all own to the center of the road.
Well, no, I'm just thinking in practicality, 'cause, yeah, they can't build
But
it.
you're good, right?
But,
Minimum side rear setbacks. Let's talk about that. So the proposal is that a lot doesn't need a setback
I guess,
to the sides or the rear.
I guess
Other
what,
things will drive it.
well, I guess what I was gonna say about the road thing, though, is if the sidewalk was 2 feet into the person's private property, which it could be, like, why not just let them build a building right up to it? Instead of having to build 3 more feet of sidewalk or leave a thin strip of dirt. To the spirit of what Bart was trying to get at, it's like, why, if you're gonna build it within 5 feet of the right of way, like, why not just let, you know what I mean? So why not let people, as long as the pertinence of the building, like the overhang or awning or step doesn't go into the right of way, I would let them build right up to the edge of the right of way.
Right, yeah, how about in the main street, they could do that, and the other 2 districts, it's 5 feet.
5 feet. Is that just
Yeah.
literally to accommodate a step?
I'll let
5
Mark
feet's not a
answer
lot of
Why did they
space,
come
so,
up with 5 feet?
Yeah, why 5 feet?
I think 5 feet is just
6 small.
probably for overhangs,
Well-
eaves and stuff like that.
But
Usually they're 24 inches, but like,
But the overhang counts as the structure,
Right,
so
sure.
it would be, so it could barely be 7 feet. I think you have to give some consideration too, particularly on Exeter Road. You start putting some of those, the houses are kind of close now, they're not right up to the sidewalk. But all of a sudden, you take some of the older houses, take those down and build right to that sidewalk, I think that could create an issue by the railroad tracks.
First.
And especially because there's a concept in here about having a wider sidewalk. 8-foot
Yeah.
sidewalks, our sidewalks aren't 8 feet.
yeah, we can reduce that.
The applicant can build out the sidewalk.
They can. I'm just saying you might end up with a weird 5 feet of,
You also have the issue
Who knows
of
what.
visual, coming out of the driveway.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Safety issue.
So we want-
Those are
The down, I
sidewalks.
don't think the downtown's the issue because you really have, you're gonna have grandfathered footprints, right? So it's not, if someone's gonna tear a building down, it's not like then they have to put the building, I would think they're gonna rebuild on all those footprints downtown.
It's fine, it's just, I'm just again looking at the vision of what the downtown looks like, and we were talking about the extension of downtown.
It hasn't changed from what's already there.
I think what,
And 2 is 5.
Yeah.
And 2A is 5.
Sure.
well, let's just keep it over there. Okay, let's talk about this idea of the 0, minimum side rear setbacks. Let's also talk about it in the context of, on the rear setback. Pretty much all of these lots, on the, let's say the east side, are going to be abutting other residential properties. So do we really want to have a 0 setback? on the rear. I mean, that's a, you know, 'cause that's kind of a whole new concept here. Right now, we have 10 feet. I think we can all agree 25 feet doesn't make sense.
The only reason I
Because we have
think,
15 and 10 on the abutting, properties.
the only reason I would say it, to me, it's acceptable is because you either have to park on the side of the building or the rear of the building. And it gives you more ability to park on the side of the building if you can stretch the building out.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, I think it's a diminution of value on abutting properties if somebody is along North Main Street or South, more so North Main Street, is building directly to the back property line.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree that it would impact the neighbor. I'm just saying the only reason I could see a benefit to doing it. Like, I could only really, like, I don't like the idea of building in the back, you know, because you're not, you're not helping create that block of buildings, is that if you're making people park either on the side or behind the building, you let them make the building longer.
Or under
They can
the
fit more
building.
units, and they
Yeah,
can,
under.
and then they can park along the side of it.
But if there's a building to their right or left, they're not allowed to park on the side, you can't park between buildings.
To be discussed.
You can't park.
Well, that's, yeah, let's
There's-
jump back on that. Are people good with the 10-foot setbacks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So just maintain those.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but it definitely changes North Main, so that's good. All right, structure heights. Do we want to consider having different structure heights depending if you're in the downtown versus the north or south corridors? The proposal now is 50, and it would change in these other districts from 35. And that would bring in building types. Currently, so the only one that is over that is
Highest is 3 stories.
3 stories. Yeah, so you'd be beyond your 35, unless you did a flat roof, which
Some
is number. Do we want 50-foot buildings on the north and south corridors?
Again, on the north, I think that's just too high. It feels way out of line with the rest of the buildings, assuming some buildings are still gonna stay there.
Got a character for the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Right.
so I 35 is as high as I'd wanna go there. Which I
So
believe gets
VCN
us to 3
35.
stories, right?
Yeah. Okay. And then on the south end?
Again, I'm open to it because we do have some higher buildings down there, not right up against the street currently, but
So 50 feet, to put in perspective, what's the height of the one across at William Road?
35.
That's right at 35 with the flat roof,
Yeah,
not including their mechanicals.
that's correct.
I remember when I saw 42 for the senior housing,
Oh, we knew that was what you did, yeah.
and it just looked really high.
Yeah.
When those balloons were flying up, it was like, wow, that is so
That's
high.
high, yeah.
So-
Agreed.
Maybe 30.
And that was only
That was
42.
35,
Yeah.
yeah.
They were trying to go to
That's-
42
Right.
at that point.
So we really have to think about this, because the only thing that right now is 50 is in Mills, correct? On the back side. I think, how about any of like the Durgan block? I don't think that's over 35.
Yeah.
So you have to really think about, put in some perspective, if we're going to go to 50 on the outside of the downtown, or outside of the mill district, right? We could be having proposals that could be similar to the one across the street, but with 2 more stories.
Just too hard.
That's really tall.
Yeah, but it'll
Too
be
tall.
It'll be
smaller,
broken up.
Broken up, yeah. also, you know, the less high as louder goes means the wider it's gonna be, more space you're taking up. That's the trade-off.
Yeah. It's a really tall building.
Yeah, but
Right.
there's finite amount of space too,
Right.
in this downtown area.
And it's a very different building with the flat roof versus, right, if you're looking at these small apartment buildings, let's say, you know, someone could only do 20%. Small Main Street, I think that would be the one.
And what's the maximum units per building? Is it 16?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the biggest building
That's
you can build is
downtown.
a 16-unit building.
Which is 3
That's
stories.
the Exeter Road section,
Oh, sorry,
not downtown.
thank you.
So to do a 50-foot, it would be a very skinny building, it seems.
Well, I think if they came with 50, they'd be looking to have more units than
Right,
16.
Right.
It's just the threshold is different for special use permit.
I mean,
Well, but our max are all three-story max.
Yeah, everything here is
So
3 stories. Could you
why
build
don't we
3
just keep 50 in the mid, oh, here's, no, sorry about that, the townhouses. No, I'm reading that wrong.
Everything's 3
Yeah,
stories.
everything's 3 stories, max, on these designs, so I don't think there's any harm to keep it at 35.
What's the tallest building we have in the whole senior complex back up on the hill there above Exeter Road?
They're only, well, that actually would be higher than 35 feet. Because
Yeah,
you're
I
into
thought
the
there were some
hillside.
I thought there were some that were
I
higher
think
than
they're only 3
35.
floors.
Those
Yeah,
are
Mead
those
Hill would be,
stories plus a
it would be
garage.
whatever Mead Hill is.
Yeah,
I think that's the newest
those-
one is the,
Yeah,
would
those
be
are-
the tallest one.
I mean, that's the only reason I would sort of favor it for that section of Exeter Road there. I know we had some parcels there that have struggled to get redeveloped, and I don't know if that would entice it. I feel better because it's not backed up to some residential neighborhood as much.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be
Right,
impairing somebody's view of something, or they might like it. Maybe it'll block out some of the railroad noise.
right. So then you're proposing in the BC South.
Yeah, that we would allow it.
But every building in here is 3 stories. Do you need 50 feet to make 3 stories, or we're gonna?
No, I think it would allow them to go above 3 stories.
Okay.
Allow them to go to 4 stories.
Except if we are,
That's a variance.
if we're incorporating in these specific styles, it's a 3-story max.
It's still 3
It's
stories.
3-story max.
Yeah,
Just changes the roof, I guess, then,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Correct.
yeah, so actually, so it would give them more reason to do 3-story plus a gable roof,
Yeah.
gable and roof, or, you know, New England architectural roof.
They can't do like a basement style apartment then and get a 4th floor that way.
They can meet
could.
egress.
So for instance, along,
Yeah.
so the way it's currently written, those units are abutting Main Street, Exeter Road, etc. That has to be a commercial unit. But
That's
Oh, that would have to
proposed
be
yeah,
a commercial
in the
unit
front.
anyway, right?
But out back, they don't have to. Those can be residential.
Those would be residential, right?
And I don't know if any of the lots drop off. Well, they do on North Main on the riverside. Some of the lots drop off there.
Mhm.
I'm getting close to the shoreline though.
Yeah. So do people have any concerns on, and we can think about it, but at least it will.
Can you make a pitched roof 3-story with 35 feet?
Could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just.
Maybe
Well, we have
8-foot
a,
ceiling heights and your floors in between.
that senior building has got
Right.
this
Right.
roof, it's 37, I believe.
Oh, I thought it was 35.
35, they
Is
didn't
it
get a
35?
variance.
They didn't,
Yeah.
they got it down to 35?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say maybe a compromise, you make it 40 feet or something like that to give them a little extra room.
Yeah, I guess for me, I feel like some architectural, leeway there.
Yeah.
They want different roof types. Just make buildings more interesting.
Okay, so
Yeah, I'm not doing it because I want them to build a pitched roof. I don't know if that's the best solution for them or whatever.
How about we
right.
table it and think about it?
yeah, yeah, I would just put those in and then we can revisit that. And then there's no minimum structure height. Why do you have 24 in here?
Well, that two's already there, they have that.
Oh,
I was just carrying it over.
that was
I
weird.
think I think I was trying to peg it to our buildings types too, because I think that's some minimums.
Okay.
Put the whole building underground if there's no.
Yeah, this is true. Let's have some earthquakes. Okay, all right, so Bart will update that.
Then,
Mhm.
so the Bs go away, the B1 goes away. So
Okay.
just, you know.
So, just, I know we want to keep going through this.
So I created a new section for the building types, so I just kind of.
Well, let's, sort of jump in for it. Why don't we talk about parking, so you can get an idea where people are at on that, and then maybe that would wrap it up for tonight?
Sounds good.
People good with that? Okay. So why don't you give us an idea of the proposal on parking, which is under C on page 3. Parking and sidewalk standards.
Okay. So,
No parking between the building and the street.
right.
Everyone concur with that?
Sorry, which page?
Page 3, section C1.
C1.
Got it.
So the idea is we don't want parking, you know, in front of the buildings, because we want to make that more, you know, a human space.
All right, parking shielded from the street. If someone is parking on the side of the building.
Right,
Right.
so that's the one I
You
can
can
get
park
rid of.
between the buildings.
Yeah,
You just-
so,
So what's your,
Can't
so
park
how do
outside
people
the
feel
building.
about that? Your point.
want to
Which
access.
part? The shielding or?
Well, if you're how do people feel about parking on the side? Because you're not gonna be able to shield it if you're parking on the side of the building, right? Unless you're gonna have a gate.
Or you might not be able to see the back. I mean, if you had vegetation that was 12 feet long, like the depth of a parking space, and you drove a driveway on the side of it, then you could turn in and you'd be
Right.
behind the vegetation with a driveway strip behind the cars, right?
Right,
Okay.
you still have the strip, but then, yeah,
Right. So that's, yeah, that was my point earlier.
do we want that?
So we do want parking shielded from the street.
I
Thoughts?
think that's what we thought we were getting, yeah, that we wouldn't see parking.
Okay,
Back on.
all right. Sidewalks with a minimum width of 8 feet are required.
So the idea, especially in the, so, just to create more walkable areas as we redevelop. It's just, you know, we're
Is the town gonna take those over? What's our existing sidewalks, 4 feet?
4 or 5. I mean, well, if, it's probably wider on Main Street in some sections, in fact.
So is more the point to connect buildings to existing sidewalks?
More point is, oh yes, but also as we create more sidewalks, that there's more sidewalk space.
Yeah, I just,
So
Some people to walk, you know, so we're accommodating for like ADA, we're
but then
accommodating
you're
for,
walking on private property.
depends on the commercial element there too.
Yeah,
Especially it will be,
right.
yeah.
So
But
if
I
you,
don't see somebody on Jerry Ave needing to like put in a sidewalk or even,
How
Down
about
one.
we, well,
Doesn't
how about
require,
this? Let's
doesn't
talk-
require sidewalks, right? It just requires, if you put in a sidewalk, it
no,
has to be.
sidewalks with a minimum width of 8 feet are required.
So how about this? I'll talk to DPW
Yeah, good. So
and we'll get their perspective and then I'll report
Yeah,
back.
I could read that as sidewalks are required, or I could read that as if you put in a sidewalk, it has to be 8 feet wide.
Yeah, it doesn't say, that's not what it says.
Says you-
Well, that, I don't know what it
Sidewalks
says, what I
with a
just
minimum
said.
width of 8 feet are required. Okay, talk
Yeah.
DPW, because I
Oh,
think that
yeah.
would be a nightmare for the town.
not just that, I mean, that you might be requiring someone to build sidewalk in the right, if they set back their house 15 feet, because they're
Yeah.
allowed to set it back 15 feet, and there's only a 4-foot sidewalk, they're gonna have to just go, like, scab onto the sidewalk
Yeah,
another
I think-
4 feet.
I'm gonna think about that.
What about
Well, what's
an
the goal?
impact fee
The-
of, an
Yeah.
impact fee that you pay per square footage for future sidewalk building.
Yeah, that's for sidewalk impact
Well,
fees.
but, I'll just play a little different. The sidewalk extension, currently we typically leave a little buffer between this sidewalk and the
Landscaping.
road. In some places, we eliminate that, so it's not their responsibility, it's still in the public. We're just making a wider sidewalk, we don't have any kind of strip of land between the sidewalk and the road.
I think there'd be safety issues with that.
Yeah, and I think I'd
It's okay
rather,
with the
in some
vertical
instances,
curve.
see green
Yeah.
space.
I mean, I don't have an issue with the sidewalk.
You know, if it's
I mean, that's
commercial.
another way to look at it,
Sorry.
or just, yeah. I'm in
Little
favor of the
children,
wider sidewalk, because I
They need
do
to
think
see
it
a
makes a
distinction
difference.
between the sidewalk
Here's
and the
what we're
road.
gonna do. We're gonna say this differently, it's gonna comply with the town's, let me think about it, let me ask
Yeah.
DPW, because also what we're trying to do is a complete street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna be
Exactly.
developing that, so eventually we'll dovetail the two.
Because
And then, so right now, we'll come up with some boilerplate language that is acceptable for right now, and then as we evolve. and we-
And you know, maybe it goes into site plan.
I think you might end
Right.
up, like if Cherry Ave, for example, where there's not really great sidewalks,
Right.
they're kind of like, is that a sidewalk? You might end up with
Yeah.
a situation like you have in Stratham, like in front of the Audi dealer, where there's a
Yes.
sidewalk and it
Sidewalk.
ends at
Oh, yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah, like for nothing.
Yeah, but I hear where you're going with it,
Yeah.
and I think that under site plan, that would make more sense.
So, impact fee.
Here's the big one, no minimum parking requirements unless section, this is the special use permit.
Correct.
Is everyone good with that? We're not gonna require the developer we're not gonna tell them how many parking spaces they need per unit or for their commercial use, unless they need a special use permit, that's what this is saying.
Yes, the special use permit says demonstrate that you can adequately park
For
your
special
units.
use.
Yeah.
For
But
special
they'll
use.
still have
special
to
use.
fulfill the handicap parking requirements, right? And fire
If it's
lanes and all
commercial.
that.
Yep, that's site
If it's
plan
commercial.
stuff.
Okay, so I'll make sure.
Not if it's straight residential.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Not if it's just residential.
Correct.
Right, but when
If
we
it-
were talking about mixed use,
Right, exactly,
Okay.
so if there's they still, that'll be under the site plan regs, the parking requirements and the ADA requirements.
okay, thank you.
But if it's in the zoning, we can't have site plan regs that contradict zoning.
It says no minimum, unless.
No minimum
yeah,
parking requirements, unless it's a special use permit. That's how I'm reading this, right?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
So, how do people feel about any site plan not having any minimum parking requirements? They don't need a special use permit, they're coming before us, they can do 16 units, they're gonna do 16 units and whatever, they're gonna do 6 parking spaces or they're gonna do 15. But as far as minimum, they're gonna do people have an opinion if that's up to the developer? Or should we be regulating the number of parking they need for a proposed development? If they don't need a special use permit.
I think you leave that up to the developer.
I mean, the
Well,
developer is
decide what we'll
constrained
sell.
by the ability to rent the apartment, right?
Yeah.
And I would guess
So
that
commercially used or-
parking is gonna significantly impact the rental income on a
Or
lot, right?
visitors. or-
So if you did a multi-unit location, and let's say it's where the bowling alley is now,
Mhm.
and he's like, I'm gonna fit as many units in there, I'm not gonna do parking because they can just use the town lot
Yeah,
across the street.
yeah.
And does that add any additional burden to the town?
Well, the town has their own lot, but then NCDC decides to sell that lot,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna put up a 16-unit building.
Yeah.
No one else is gonna use the parking, because they're gonna, however they're gonna,
Right,
right?
right.
So that becomes, I should have looked up, what did Exeter propose, do you remember?
This chair's
I think
killing
one,
me.
I think it's one, or
It's
one.
broken,
you're
it's
right.
slanted like
Yeah,
this.
one
So
per
it keeps
unit,
sliding and
not
sliding.
regulated by Bentley. One per
Yeah,
unit,
not
so
regulated.
under the Exeter regs, it's 1 per unit, and they just updated
This,
theirs.
This might-
two, one per unit.
This-
Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't get it to do anything.
so
I
that's
mean,
the
under the
question.
current circumstances,
that seems like the most practical
No.
No,
thing,
because that's
because
long.
people are still completely
That's unlocked.
dependent in this
Yeah.
area on owning a car.
This will go
Yeah, we
back,
don't
but
have.
So, I mean,
That's a little.
that's better, thank you.
maybe at some point it would be revisited, but. yeah.
Well, and they can always go to the zoning board for a variance like they did over here.
But right now, they don't need variances for parking, it's a site plan issue.
Well, Railroad Street, didn't they get a variance from parking?
That's just a special,
Yeah.
well, that was because that was a special use permit
Okay.
criteria.
And they went to
We're-
the no, they went to the zoning board.
Yeah, because
to
they
get
had
relief.
relief from that one of that criteria.
So,
But in normal circumstances, it's a planning board site, right, that they waive, you guys waive.
Right, then we wait.
Right.
So what do people feel? Do we mandate a number per unit, per residential unit?
I just would be concerned that people would not have a place to park, because we have a lot of regulations, and you basically can't park on the street most of the time.
Right.
Can't reliably park on a street here.
So we comfortable with one per unit?
Yeah, I'm comfortable
Right.
with that,
Per unit,
per unit.
not per
No,
person.
One per
Not per
residential
person.
unit,
Yeah.
Per unit.
and then the commercial would fall into site plan, right?
Okay, so I'll write it where, if it's a residential unit, it's one per unit, and then, commercial will follow site plan regs.
But then it will depend on the use, right?
Yeah.
So, do they allow, are there exceptions in places, I thought there were in town, where if you're so far from like, public parking, you can have so many spots counted there? Is there,
All of them, I think.
is there, what,
We have many site plan approvals where we have many people using the same spot. Is that a fair comment?
I have to review that.
Yeah, it is.
so, is that kind of what, like current, what you're getting at with, like, or whoever said that with the, across from the bowling alley, there's, or like,
It's a lot.
currently, can you count those? Are those municipal spots?
Well, they kind of
There.
are. You have to, the town rents that lot for $1 a year, and then we sell the lot. You know, if you want to park there, you have to buy a
Oh, do they?
permit.
From Parkland,
And so the town actually makes money over that.
Right?
overnight.
And
Yeah,
what,
overnight, yeah.
what about on Exeter Road along 108 on the east side where people park? Is that free-for-all parking?
Public,
Yeah,
Just public parking?
right away.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting
Can you
question,
count
you
that?
know, if you built a building, you know, saying, okay, we're gonna park there, and then they decide to build a building where that parking lot is.
Right, or they add a turning lane and then the street gets,
Yeah.
you know, then that's no longer parking on the street there anymore
Yeah.
or something.
all right,
I just was, one more
Yeah.
thought before, how are we gonna create demand for public transportation? How are we gonna do that?
High-density housing is the only,
that's the cart and the horse.
Or on a
There's only
50,
one way to do it.
Say
I
the chicken,
think.
the egg, when no one can
Yeah.
afford them anymore, right?
on a
No,
50, on a
chickens.
50 by 100 lot, can you put 4 units and 4 cars?
But then you're dedicating
They
so
fit.
much space, finite amount of land to parking, where it could be units,
Or in the building,
yeah, on the
right?
building.
And you can go up height-wise.
When we talk about
Those
public,
areas.
boat taxis, ferries.
Think from a tax perspective, what yields
Right.
more, what
Yeah,
yields more
building.
revenue?
yeah.
Building,
No,
not
I-
parking lots.
Yeah.
Don't disagree with you at all, Bart. 100% on board with the idea, but I think that you have to have, I don't know, what comes first? The planes or the airport, or the cars,
Yep.
parking, or
Yeah.
the bus, or the people, or the,
Look at the reality, we lost. We lost our bus.
is it because we added parking?
No, well.
Well, you know what I mean?
UNH problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
We lost
that's-
UNH is the.
No, I
lost
know,
the
no, I
students.
know, I know.
But no one's using it because
But the
everyone
point,
has a car.
but the point is people didn't, I guess maybe the point there is the people didn't have cars, right? And I used to live in Newmarket and then didn't have a car.
Yeah.
My wife took the bus to school.
Or you didn't want
to
to
UNH.
park way off campus.
Yeah, you didn't want a car way off
Variety of
campus, right?
reasons.
So,
If it was practical to take.
I
the
just
bus.
think, I think it makes sense outside of downtown. That's where you can have those conversations, but I think in downtown,
Okay.
Or
just
only-
just for me,
Yeah.
just my perspective, it's just, we just have so little land. and then we gotta try to maximize its best use. And the question for the board is parking that best use?
Well, I'd be fine with it if we could open up the streets to parking more. That would solve a lot of that.
But the
But
parking has to be behind the building, which I
On-street parking.
hate that part.
yeah,
Don't like the idea of putting them behind the buildings.
So would you propose to break it out between the VC and then the north and south?
I think we think about it.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
let's,
100, I thought we were only talking about the VC areas currently, not even
We are.
downtown.
Yeah, but north and south. So
Yeah,
VC
north and south.
Downtown or north or south? Do
North
we
or-
want different parking requirements is the question?
Oh, between north and south.
Between
And
downtown.
Town.
I
and
think
north
downtown
and
should definitely be different,
Yeah, I think we're in agreement with
100%.
that.
And are you saying there should be no parking requirements downtown?
I think a lot of the buildings down there already have no parking.
Yeah, they kind of share.
It's, yeah, they
But
occupy the
when they
lot
come
for the
before us for
building.
site plan review, that was they're
Mm-hmm.
basically using public parking.
Have been for a very
Right.
long time.
So we may as well just say consistent with that and puts the pressure on the town to whatever we need to do about downtown parking.
I have an idea. What, all right, so let's just go down the corridor,
Yeah.
North Main Street. What are we thinking?
I think that on these, the north and south, that the developer should accommodate on-site parking.
it's a
I
pretty
agree.
long walk to any public parking that we have on there, unless we can figure out a way to create another option. Like, if we can create some on-street parking, then I would be willing to bend on that. I don't have a problem with, I grew up parking on the street, and we didn't have a driveway garage parked on the street. It's
But
just
we're so
where-
confined, and it may be better use of turning lanes,
Right.
someone mentioned, as you're coming through town.
It's tough. I mean, the right of way might only be so wide, and if you want sidewalks and parking,
I was
that's
thinking
pretty,
on the
that's
south
pretty
end.
wide.
Well, you have to,
Or buying it right away.
I think it would require another kind of review. Like, look at the neighborhood, where could we have on-street parking? How would we want to do it? You know, would that mean that you would have to make it a permit system? You have to have a sticker in your car when you register your car in Newmarket, get a little resident sticker, and you can park in the street.
Well, I can just tell you that around downtown, the police and fire do not believe the roads are wide
Right.
enough
Enough,
to
yep.
accommodate parking.
And if-
Except in downtown.
No, I'm talking about any of the side
No,
streets.
none of them.
traffic down.
None of them are,
Well,
I
yeah,
agree with that.
I'm talking more about this the north neighborhood. That's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
okay.
So
For the
if
north-
we were gonna not have a parking requirement, if we could open up streets to parking there, then I think we could say you don't have to have any parking.
Well, I don't think you'll get that on the north side, because we have all the infrastructure and the sidewalks now built,
Right,
Uh-huh.
right? You literally only have a breakdown lane, it's not, you can't really park over by the sidewalk
right.
without interfering with the flow of traffic.
Well,
And then
it
you have
definitely
it for
would
bikes.
slow down traffic
Yeah.
significantly, which I'm all in favor of. Again, I
Just
think
not,
that's
the road just
better.
isn't wide enough
If
for
you
that.
create a
It's not.
narrower street, you
No.
create a slower traffic pattern.
Couple things. One, that's DOT's land.
Yeah, I know, we can't
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, it doesn't mean,
Town's looking
something
at that.
happens where town has a little more oversight of
Yeah.
that area, so again, question is,
Rough pass,
yeah,
Yeah.
so think about North Main, the next one, and I guess South Exeter Road, that area.
Jerry, area,
Jerry.
those, yep. All right. But I think we're all in agreement that a parking requirement downtown isn't required.
Right.
They're
Sounds good.
surviving now,
Do
so
it,
we're
I
forcing
think
them.
that's a good
Figure it out.
starting point.
It's time to go though.
Title refine based on conversation, and, yes, and I'll just have a new draft for you.
We got through a lot of this. You know what I would request for the next meeting is people really look at just the, maybe it's not needed, permitted uses. I don't think yeah.
Yeah,
The
so
only one you
I-
added was bed and breakfast.
Right, I just took over
Yeah. Good.
B1 and 2A, I just combined them all, since it's a
Yeah.
commercial, so
Okay,
nothing really changed.
so that was a lot accomplished, Kenny. Appreciate everyone's going through all that.
I jump in one thing?
Sure,
Next time,
Bill.
we're gonna talk about the first floor requirement thing,
Yeah,
the extra, for
Yeah.
example.
well, for anything fronting, if it has to be commercial or what triggers commercial. Next meeting, so we can move that forward? Does that give you time, Bart?
Yes.
Before March? Okay.
Yeah, so FYI, it's the third week of March, not second Tuesday. Because of town meeting.
All right.
Okay.
Who's up on the planning board?
Great question. Eric, Abby,
Patrick and Abby.
and Patrick.
There, did you check into Abby's alternate position term?
Still follow up on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You may still be, if you're not reelected, throw a write-in, if anybody's not. I've asked Bart to check your term, because you came up, you had.
Yeah, because
you
I
had a-
like filled in.
Well, you did an alternate, and then we
Yeah.
brought you up for just the 1 year.
We have one space, yeah.
And then we have an alternate position
McHale's
open.
is opening up, and we have one vacant
We'll
already.
have 2 alternate positions. Okay, I didn't talk to Eric, so I don't know about any reports, and then any committee reports. Patrick?
We did the energy chapter review at the last energy and environment, and I think it went well. I think pretty much done, turned it over. It's ready to
Oh,
be
great.
reviewed.
Yeah, I think we're just a working group, just doing the fine tuning right now.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Jeff?
I was not at the meeting. Concom meeting was.
Well, nice to see the Mitchell easement stuff that's gonna happen.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Jane? CIP
Nothing.
start meeting yet? Okay. Abby, you on any master plan committees or anything?
On the economic development,
Oh, yeah.
meetings on Friday.
Okay, great. Pretty much moving forward on the other master plan committees, so
Oh, yeah.
that's all good.
They're all,
Scott?
We
See?
didn't even have the first meeting and the second, because there was nothing to meet for, and the second meeting was basically nothing, so January was kind of a bust.
Okay.
I'll ask one more. I think I asked this question before, if someone could sit in for me, because I can't make the Concom meeting this week either.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah. Me and Bridget will be there.
Guess we're not
Um,
gonna do that,
And then planners report.
Yeah, let's see, like I said, we're really cranking with the master plan updates. And I think in March, we'll be starting the second half of the zoning, so kind of like we did the focus groups and all that. So we'll be starting that process soon. What else? I mean, those are the major initiatives. We recently applied for transportation alternatives program for the pedestrian bridge. We applied for grant funding. So we did a presentation to the TAC group at SRPC, and it went well. So hopefully we'll get some, be nominated, and then that'll go towards our application with DOT. So that was exciting. And-
That's your bridge over the river?
Yeah, it's the replacement of what's there.
Is
Does
any of that?
Does that
is
have federal money?
This one would be, yes, be DOT money.
Yeah.
So we have 2 different pots, one for the sewer main, and then the
Because
other one.
we have a thing, we had a grant approved for the police department, we're gonna upgrade the whole IT system and everything, and now that apparently Elon Musk has kind of put that on hold.
So, yeah, I'm unaware of, any thing being helped on the sewer main one, or the, I think it's already been allocated, but I guess probably the same thing on that end, but I haven't heard anything that this DOT money is being
Yeah.
encumbered, so,
Okay,
yeah, so those are some highlights.
great. Anything else?
That's a
New
good
business
question.
or old business?
Are there setbacks on driveways and parking?
Not in Newmarket.
So
Only
you
for
can park,
EDUs,
you can park right along your lot line?
yes.
Okay.
And it's not considered a structure anymore.
It's not a structure, the driveway.
Although some towns do, can't be in setback.
So you can drive within the setback of a building.
Okay, nothing further, take a motion to adjourn.
That's my question.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
You asked
Is
that.
there a second?
Just thinking of how lots of these.
Okay, all
I'll
those in
second.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Just draw that, what can be
Okay.
built into these lots, such as